Welcome to Limbo Land. Oops, hang on. Oh, clicker, sorry. Technology, what have I done now? Sorry, we'll get there. Okay, so this is my daughter, Becky. She drives my passion to run Syndromes Without a Name. She was undiagnosed for 9 years. We waited a total of 5 years in total for test results to come back after 5 years in total for test results to come back over a 9-year period, and no parent should have to wait that long, which is why I advocate so hard for genome sequencing and better pathways for our kids. So welcome to Limbo Land. I often equate not having a diagnosis as being in limbo land, a bit like Emily Pearl Kingsley's poem Welcome to Holland, where the plan lands in Holland instead of Italy. For SWAN families, they're still in limbo land. They're in the air, and it's a land full of isolation, frustration, uncertainty and challenges, and no one knows what to expect, and that's probably the hardest for families. They feel isolated. So typical journey, I don't need to tell you about these emotions. I'm sure you all live them every day, but I just want to pick up on a couple of them. And one of them is ambiguous grief. You know, when you're pregnant, you think you might be having a typical child. You've got to grieve for that typical child that you don't have. It doesn't mean you don't love the child you have, but I think that's one of the hardest things, because there's no books written about grieving for the child that's with you but isn't what you imagined when you were pregnant. And the other one I wanted to touch on was emotionally vulnerable. You know, you can be tracking along fine, and then there you are pushing your 12-year-old daughter on the swing, and there's a 3-year-old pushing themselves quite happily, and you just burst into tears. So it hits you when you don't expect it to, and that's okay. So there's many issues for SWAN families. Being undiagnosed, there's medical implications you might not know about, impacts on families, whether to have more kids, are you carriers, can you be tested? Can it lead to better treatment plans? Is it a regressive condition? Is it a progressive condition? And you have to advocate that much harder. So even with the NDIS, it's meant to be a needs-based scheme. Yeah, undiagnosed and rare genetic conditions aren't on the operation guidelines. So there's a need for support, and we were quite fortunate. My daughter's 12, we went to early intervention, we did a lot of groups, and I met the most amazing people who I still are friends with today. The model changed to the key worker, and so your worker would come out, or your specialist, your OT or your speechy, and parents are a lot more isolated. So we have people come to SWAN and say, oh, I've never met anyone with a child with a disability, let alone an undiagnosed condition. So it is really tough, and the NDIS has fragmented it even more. And I think, you know, SWAN families want a diagnosis. They want to know what's wrong with their child, and if they can, they can get the help that they need. So for us, we got an answer, FOXP1. We were misdiagnosed twice with life-threatening conditions, so to finally get the answer that fits was fantastic. I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I actually didn't realise how much stress I must have carried around until we got that diagnosis. And such a relief. You know, I can understand why she's the way she is. So I remember when we got the diagnosis, I saw a paediatrician and I said, Kate, you know, have you heard we've got a diagnosis? And she said, no, tell me about it. And I said, and one of the symptoms is difficult behaviour. I'm not a crap parent. There's a reason why she's so difficult. So to me, you know, I could accept that a little bit more. We've been able to contribute to research. Recently, we've been involved in a speech study. FOXP1's a speech gene, and we're hoping to have, out of that study, better treatment plans for conditions. So, you know, we don't want to be wasting our time doing rest therapy if it's not going to be appropriate. So we've been able to contribute, and hopefully we'll be able to benefit. And that's one of the advantages of having a diagnosis. And we've got a little bit of a glimpse into what the future will hold, because there's older kids who have travelled the journey before us. So a diagnosis that can lead to better treatment plans. You can work out better drugs. I know I can speak to people in the FOXP1 Facebook group and say, what drug did you try, you know, when the behaviour went out the window? Then I can take that knowledge to the paediatrician. So knowledge is empowerment, and it allows you to make decisions that are going to benefit everyone. And support, I said, the best thing for me has been able to connect with others with the same condition. But the reality is, even with genomics, many kids won't receive a diagnosis. We're sitting 30 to 50% with a diagnosis rate at the moment. Let's hope in another 10 years will be, you know, there'll only be 20% of kids we won't be able to diagnose. It'll just get better and better. So I'm just going to play a little video which basically sums up what we are. Thank you.